Have you ever heard of a country that didn't farm, produce goods, or trade for 200 years? Their sole income? Assassinations. This isn't fiction. It's the true story of the Nizari Ismaili state, also known as the Assassins, active over 700 years ago. They were so terrifying that kings and emperors trembled at the mere mention of their name. The Nizari Ismailis were led by a series of enigmatic leaders, the most famous being Hassan-i Sabbah, who founded the order in the late 11th century. From their impregnable mountain fortress of Alamut, the assassins would send their agents, known as fedayin, on missions to eliminate political and religious leaders who opposed them. These missions were not carried out by mere mercenaries. The fedayin were devoted followers who believed in the divine mission of their leaders and were often willing to sacrifice their lives to complete their tasks. But even this fearsome nation met its match, Mongol cavalry, all thanks to one man, Möngke Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. Imagine you're a French count wandering in the mountains of Tehran. You stumble upon a mysterious fortress. Before you can react, you're invited in by white-clad emissaries. As you enter, chills run down your spine. Everyone inside is dressed in white robes, except the lord of the castle in black. He offers to show you a performance. With a wave of his hand, several white-robed servants leap from a high tower, crashing to the ground before you. And this, dear Count, is just an appetizer. The Lord proudly names it loyalty. He has 60,000 more like them. But it gets worse. If you are a neighboring prince, you might wake up one morning to find a dagger embedded in your pillow and a mysterious figure in your room, warning you to pay tribute or face death next time. This is how Sultan Saladin himself was reportedly scared into retreat. How did the assassins train these killers? Through immersive paradise experience classes. Young recruits were rigorously trained in combat. Their leader, Rukn al-Din, promised paradise to the diligent, and he wasn't bluffing. He built a literal paradise filled with wine, food, and women. When the young assassins neared adulthood, they were drugged and brought to this paradise to enjoy its pleasures. Upon waking in the real world, they were told that returning to paradise required dying on a mission. No wonder they fought like they had nothing to lose. Their belief in paradise made them willing to undertake dangerous, suicidal missions, striking terror into their enemies and securing their place in history as a notorious secret order. No one could have guessed that the founding fathers of terrorism, the notorious assassins, would end up crossing paths with the unstoppable war machine of the Mongol Empire. Let's rewind to 1251. The assassin leader, Rukn al-Din, is hunched over a world map, hunting for his next extortion target. His eyes land on the most powerful man on the planet, Möngke Khan, the great Khan of the Mongols. Funny enough, Möngke Khan is also flipping through maps, pondering his next conquest. The legacies of his grandfather, Genghis Khan, and his uncle, Ogadai Khan, who led 2 successful campaigns, weigh heavily on him. Möngke is torn between striking west at Egypt or the Song dynasty in China. No one saw this coming. The world's top assassin boss decides to extort the world's top warlord. In 1251, Rukn al-Din, leader of the assassins, eyes his next target on the world map, Möngke Khan, the mighty Mongol ruler. At the same time, Möngke is also scanning maps, torn between attacking Egypt or the Song dynasty in China. Just then, an assassin arrives demanding annual tribute from Möngke or face their wrath. Möngke is stunned but seizes the moment. This makes my decision easier, he thinks. He sends 2 armies, one south, led by his brother Kublai, to fight the Song, and the other west, led by his brother Hulagu, to annihilate the assassins. And so, the stage is set for an epic showdown between the world's deadliest shadows and the Mongol war machine. In June 1256, Hulagu's army entered assassin territory and easily broke through their defenses. Rukn al-Din was forced to fight. Even his own assassins prevented him from surrendering. They longed for their promised heaven. The assassins were experts in individual combat, but were no match for the Mongol army. In November 1256, the Mongols besieged Alamut. They brought out their secret weapon, the trebuchet. Under relentless bombardment, the fortress fell, despite its location on a towering cliff. The Mongols executed Rukn al-Din. This marked the end of the assassins' kingdom. Neighboring countries cheered, no longer afraid of the hidden dagger. But their joy was short-lived. Hulagu's Mongol army didn't stop. They marched west, setting their sights on Baghdad, one of the world's greatest cities. The Mongol invasion force entered Abbasid territory, and as the Caliph had predicted, the other cities were unable to resist. They either opened their gates in surrender or were destroyed by the siege weapons of the Mongol general Möngke Khan. On January 16, 1258, the various allied forces converged outside Baghdad, with Hulagu's 20,000 Mongol troops encamping to the south of the city. Hashim, the commander of the elite guard, advocated for a sortie to engage the enemy in battle. But the regent, Caliph al-Mustasim's uncle, preferred to wait for reinforcements from Syria and Egypt, unwilling to take the risk. Hashim persisted, and eventually his plan was approved. On January 17th, the Abbasid army launched a surprise attack on Hulagu's forces. Despite the challenging terrain and Mongol tactical errors, the battle initially favored the Abbasids. The Mongol troops were forced to retreat, with the Abbasid forces pursuing them to the banks of the Tigris River. Exhausted, the Abbasid army set up camp under Hashim's direction, but they were scattered when the Mongols breached the dikes and flooded the area. On January 18th, the Mongols began their siege of Baghdad, using trebuchets and crossbows to demolish the city's buildings. In 1257, they besieged it. The Abbasid Caliph al-Mustasim surrendered, hoping to save his city. But the Mongols showed no mercy, destroying the famed House of Wisdom. Hulagu reportedly mocked the Caliph, who had hoarded treasure instead of strengthening his defenses, by locking him in a vault without food. The Mongol advance seemed unstoppable. Hulagu was now eyeing Egypt, but then came shocking news from the east. Möngke Khan had died. The Mongol war machine ground to a halt, and the world breathed a sigh of relief. In the 14th century, Syrian historian Ibn Kathir described the massacre of Baghdad by the Mongols. Although the Mongols had promised to spare most of the city's inhabitants, they ultimately carried out a ruthless slaughter of scientists, doctors, writers, and other social elites, which lasted for 40 days. The city center of Baghdad was engulfed in flames. The palaces of the Abbasid Caliphate and the caliphal tombs were destroyed, and mosques, schools, hospitals, and libraries were razed to the ground. Classic books were thrown into the Tigris River, staining its waters black. Caliph al-Mustasim witnessed this devastation helplessly, marking the official end of the Abbasid Caliphate. It is estimated that nearly 200,000 people were killed in the massacre.